Dr. Oudi founder of Inspired Results, Performance Coaching and Speaking. I help people and companies design a brighter future. When I was 21 years old, I was diagnosed with cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I thought it was the end. My sister's a medical doctor, said, "Oh, you'll be fine." I wasn't the kind of person who would go to the library and research it. I was a sports guy, and I really thought it was I was nearing the end of my life. And it was so hard, not just on me, but watching my mom especially struggle with it. So I said, you know what? God, something needs to happen. Something needs to shift. And I heard a lyric from Bob Marley, and the lyric was, "When you live for yourself, you live in vain. When you live for others, you live again." And I said, what does that really even mean? And then I got this idea. I thought, you know what? If I got straight A's on my final exams, my family, especially my mom, would never believe it. I mean, that would be the gift I would leave behind in the event that I died. So I went for it. I got the A's, to my family's surprise and to mine. And that's when I realized this powerful lesson. And that is that if you want to get an A in life, if you want to finish first, not better than anybody else, but just the best version of yourself. If you want to finish first, put yourself second. I noticed that even till today. I mean, back then, I couldn't even get an A for me. But doing it for my family was almost too easy. Today, I notice that still exists. If I have a headache and I'm coaching someone or I'm delivering a talk, there is no headache because I'm focused on other. And a lot of people say to me, hold on, people say you should live for yourself and live first. I knew who I was. I was living what I call congruently. My priorities and goals matched the life I was living. And because of that, I could then be of service to other people and put myself second. So that's really when I realized that I wanted to do something incredible in this world, and I wanted to leave a mark on this world. And I wanted to do something that not only my family, but the world would never forget, and I'd be remembered. No, before cancer, so there's my life, I have a before cancer and after cancer. Before cancer, I was a hockey player or I should say former hockey player. I had this dream of being a professional hockey player, and I got cut. And when I got cut, I felt like my dream was gone. And I became a drifting, lost individual. But after cancer, I felt like I was crystal clear that I wanted to do something amazing. And I knew it had something to do with teaching and something to do with academics and learning. I knew it had nothing to do with sports. Back before cancer, when I wanted to be a hockey player and I was cut, I was just living a life that was, had no temperance, that was just me having fun, chasing girls, chasing the next party. After cancer, it was about doing something meaningful and leaving a mark on the planet. So what I would say to people is the first thing you got to do is you got to find out who you really are and what your life's about. And it starts with living congruently. Congruence is about your priorities and goals matching the life you actually live, matching your footsteps. The greater the gap, the greater the inauthenticity. You got to live authentically and figure out who you are and let the vision come from there. Once the vision comes from that place, then you can start designing the life you dream and identifying the exact footsteps you need to take every day to get closer to that vision. Well, I really believe that sabotage has many conflicting connotations, because some people think sabotage is I set this goal to lose weight and then I don't follow through and I don't lose weight and I sabotage my goal, But I really believe that life sabotage is when you're not clear from the get-go what your life is really about. So if you don't know what your life is really about, it's easy to point the finger that I didn't achieve this and that was sabotage, I didn't achieve that and that was sabotage. But you can solve this very simply, and that is live congruently, get your priorities and goals to match the footsteps you take, close that inauthenticity, close the authenticity gap, and automatically you'll start feeling like you're gaining momentum and living that life you really dream. And there won't be any room for blaming sabotage because you'll be achieving the things that are most important to you. My latest book, called Fear Forward, I termed it Fear Forward because it's an inescapable truth, and that is that if you want to move forward in life, you got to face your fears, and we all have them. And if you want to move your life forward to the greatest degree, you got to face your greatest fears, or greatest fear. The inspiration basically started, I was in Lebanon on a holiday. And I thought, you know what, I've been coaching for 20 years, coming on 20 years. And so it'd be amazing if I created a personal development book, because I've created a nutrition book and a networking book, and this is the time perhaps. So I started playing around with the acronym FEAR, and I thought, it just wasn't coming, I went and visited a chiropractor friend, and I told her this story. And I said, this patient came in to see me who had neck problems and headaches and an issue with her ear and ringing and all that stuff. And we looked deep into her life, not just treating her physically, but looked deep into her psychology. And her real problem was she wasn't able to have children. 10 years of trying to have kids. And when we explored beneath the surface, we discovered that she was deep down afraid of becoming like her mom. And when we cleared that fear, right? Her ear issues went away. Her neck issues went away. The headaches went away. She traveled the world looking for solutions. This is a 10-year problem of trying to have children. And these symptoms, came hand in hand. And so I explained that all her symptoms went away after, I coached her for about 3 hours or so. And she said, that's amazing, Oudi, it's incredible. And she said, but did she have children? Did she get pregnant? I said, I'm not sure. It's like, what's wrong with you? That is the most important part of the story. I said, I just didn't, I haven't been in touch with her. It's been a while. When I went back to where we were staying, I got a message from her. I was on the veranda looking at this beautiful, breathtaking view in Lebanon. And the message, she floored me with the message. She wasn't messaging me to tell me she was pregnant. It was better than that. She messaged me, and it was a picture of her newborn baby. She was still in the operating room when they showed me the picture of the baby just being born. And that's when I said, man, I was covered in tears. And I thought, this is the time. If I had any doubt, this is the time to come out with the book. And I just imagined one day her son, imagine knocking on my door and say, hey, I'm here because I want to open a business and I'm looking for some inspiration, some guidance. And then we traced back the story, and it was like, I coached his mom and I helped her break her fear of becoming like her mother. She not only cleared her health symptoms, but she connected with her mom, and then she brought a baby into this world. Yeah, fear basically interferes with your life across the board. And the general categories are, it interferes with your mental development, your physical health problems, interferes with your personal life and your professional life, and any other category of life you could think of. Yeah, see, fear basically is the thing that's holding you by the shoulders and keeping you stuck exactly where you are. It's that brake, you're slamming the gas and there's this brake. She wanted on one hand to have a child, the story I was telling you about, but then she also had another foot on the brake. I don't want to become like my mom, because her mom criticized her. That led her to leaving the house when she was 15 years old, traveled the world, was the right-hand woman of many companies, company names that you would know, big brands. And she even criticized her niece once, and then she got choked up. And I said, here, I'll finish this sentence for you. You're afraid of doing that to your own child. And she said, yes. You see? So fear can stop whatever progress you're trying to make, whatever forward movement you're trying to make. It'll stop you, because no matter how much will you put into something, which is the foot on the gas, if you got the other foot on the brake, you're not going anywhere. I've had to face all kinds of fears. In fact, I'll be speaking today about the fact that my fear of public speaking, the feeling terrified inside, is what led to me being terrible on the outside as a speaker. It came from many events. It was a series of events. So some fears have a singular event. With Jody, it was a singular event where she was criticized by her mother that she didn't want to repeat. It was, on top of that, there was a small event of her criticizing her niece, but it's mostly one major event, what I call a source incident. But for me, my speaking fears had many, but it started in grade 7, when I was speaking at school on quitting smoking. There was a smaller event prior to that in hockey, in the hockey dressing room, but there was many events, me speaking at chiropractic school, me speaking in an old age home, me speaking at a bank, many incidents that created or compounded and made my fear. So what I'm trying to teach people is, you don't fear the unknown. We're taught traditionally, most psychologists and most human beings believe that we're afraid of the mystery of tomorrow, this unknown thing. Why are you afraid of getting on stage? I don't know. Why are you afraid of opening a business? I don't know. But the truth is, we're afraid of the known, and the known is our past. It's the experiences we've labeled as negative that we're afraid of repeating, that keeps us paralyzed by fear. You can't fear something if there isn't content, substance, or information in your mind. Because fear is not, even though it's the most costly human emotion, said by some greats like Napoleon Hill, the truth is, fear is an emotion. Well, I was afraid of heights, and I didn't know why. I was in my 30s. I was coaching someone who was afraid of heights, and I realized, God, I'm actually afraid of heights as well. I remember going on this tower, climbing, going on this building and looking down from the veranda, and I realized I used to watch the movie Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone, and there was this opening scene where he was trying to save somebody, and then the glove slipped and she died. She plummeted to her death. And my hands watching that movie would literally drip of sweat. And I couldn't understand it. I didn't really care because I'm not a skier, I don't climb mountains, so I never really addressed it. But when I coached this lady, I realized I have this fear too. Where does it come from? I traced it back. I thought it was gonna come from an incident when I was about 10, where I fell from the roof of a house and I broke my nose, that's why it's crooked like this, and my arm at the same time. But the real source incident was when I was 4 years old. Imagine, it was just sitting here, I didn't even know. When I was 4 years old, one of our family friends, my parents' family friend, put me over Niagara Falls in Canada. And I started kicking, I wanted him to leave me alone, but he couldn't, because he didn't want to drop me, right? But that anxiety that I had, that feeling of somebody not wanting to give me that freedom, right, is where my fear came from. And so what I did is I had to go back and first realize that was the source of my fear. And then I had to change the story, because we can't change our past, but we can change the effect it has on us. And the way I did that was I changed my story. Instead of this person did this to me, could have killed me, oh my God, the thought of falling over Niagara Falls, I get this feeling in my stomach. I went back and I said, how was this an advantageous experience? What was the positive aspects that I was missing in my story? I had all the negative pieces of the puzzle. I didn't have the positive pieces, but with the right questions, when you question your questions, you uncover the missing pieces, the positive pieces, and then you complete your perspective. And when I completed my perspective on that past event, and I closed my eyes, my fear of heights was gone. Just this year in December, last year, I went skiing for the first time in my life from a mountain that's about 3,000 meters above sea level. And I went down 3 times. And I was literally almost fearless. Fear of heights was not the issue. It was fear of being on skis and that speed for the first time, But I did it successfully, and my fear of heights has been crushed. Because when you win the war within, then your content, grows wings. It's not hard to change. It's impossible to change the past, because the past has already been written. But when you complete your perspective on the past, when you go back and question your questions, you change the narrative, you change the story. And by rewriting your past, rewriting your history, you rewrite your future. See, it's not the mystery of tomorrow that we're afraid of, it's the history of yesterday. And no matter what you've been through, as an adult, as a young adult, as a child, you can change the effect it's having on you. I've worked with people with all kinds of physical abuse. I told you that story of the lady who was, beaten up on a regular basis by her husband. I couldn't change that. I even gave her choices. I said, you can leave him, you can get a divorce, you can run away, you can call the cops, and just a joke, I said, you could kill him. You've seen the Jennifer Lopez movie, go learn karate and take him out. And she laughed, and I did that just to kind of break the seriousness. And she said, those are not options, because he's the father of my kids and he's really good to them. I said, well, you got one option left. Call it option Z. It's the last option people usually think about when it should be one of the first options they consider, and that is change your outlook, change your outcomes. Question your questions, change the effect that the past is having on you. And he invited me to the house, if you remember the story. And he basically said to me, I don't get it, man. I mean, you didn't put a gun to my head and say, hey, you touch her again, I'll take you out. You coached her, but how did that impact me? And I said, my friend, that's hard to explain, but I can tell you that when you become empowered, when you go from victim mentality to empowered mentality, people treat you differently. I had a funny story of a group CEO who invited me in to meet him. When I walked in, my first words were, how can I help you, basically? And he said to me, it's real simple. Let me cut to the chase. I got this head of department guy over here that drives me crazy. I think he needs coaching. And I said, let me just see if I get this straight. He drives you crazy and you think he needs the coaching. And we had a little chuckle, and he's like, you think I need the coaching? I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could sit with him and say, all right, what's going on? Nothing. How can I help you? You can't. He might not even want the coaching. You completely reject me. But you can change the effect he's having on you. This guy, this CEO, group CEO, was going to work at 11 a.m. just to avoid seeing him and interacting with him. But guess what? When we changed the effect it had on him, he was showing up at his own company at 7 a.m., not avoiding him anymore. They were connected as a team all of a sudden. They started working together, because the truth is, whatever triggers you and other people has almost nothing to do with them and everything to do with what they remind you of your past, what they remind you of your history. So to do the real deep inner work, it's about figuring out in the button pushers what buttons they're exposing that still exist in you. Because you can't go around removing the button pushers. You can't divorce everyone in your life. You can't cancel everyone in your life, but you can remove the buttons. So people no longer have the power to push your buttons. And now you're in the driver's seat of your life. Now you can control your thoughts and your behaviors, your attitude and your actions, your perceptions and your decisions and your feelings and the footsteps you take. If you want to align your vision with any group of people, corporate or otherwise, it starts with you knowing what your personal vision is. Because how can you align with another vision if you don't have one? And it also, if you guys have teams, you got to make your team vision crystal clear so that your team members have something to anchor or align to. Number one thing when I talk about leadership is to lead your own ship. You got to first know who you are, right? And that's where it comes down to congruency. My number one requested program when it comes to CEOs and when I talk leadership is the first thing we do is we get them living congruently. We get the priorities they have in their mind, the goals they've set. We want to make sure, first we want to determine how well they match the footsteps they're taking, the life they're living. And once we find out how incongruent they are, then we close that gap. Because now they don't have cognitive dissonance. They have cognitive consonance. They're not inconsistent in achieving their goals. They're clear about their goals and they're hitting the goals that matter. And number three, they're not emotionally volatile. They're emotionally stable. And once the leader can do that, now they're leading by example. I was speaking earlier with someone about the fact that true leadership is about followship. It's about following. You lead your own ship, but you follow people in areas where they excel. So that now you have a team of experts all in their area of expertise, like a sports team. You got this guy who's the goalie, that's his job. You got this person who's a centerman, that's his job. You got this older guy on the team who's not even a great player, but he plays an important role behind the scenes in the dressing room to inspire the team and to help them when they're down and make sure they don't get too excited when they're up. So leadership is about first leading your own ship, getting congruent with your own life. Number two, getting your team to live congruently. And so when you do that, then you got experts across the field. And then what you do is you align visions. My team building program is basically centered around the idea that the strength of the pack is the wolf. And the strength of the wolf is the pack, from Rudyard Kipling, who's a Nobel Prize winner in literature. And what he's basically saying is the strength of the pack is the wolf, meaning that the strength of the team is the individual. The more empowered that individual is by overcoming their fears, the more clear that individual is by living congruently, the more valuable they are, not only to themselves, but to the team. And the strength of the team, the strength of the individuals in the team, because the more you empower a team, when you get a new player that joins, automatically they rise to that level. So it's about empowering leadership at the individual level and at the team level. Someone who knows who they are, who lives congruently, who's overcome the fears in their fear inventory, right? Understands that their team also needs to be empowered when it comes to living congruently and overcoming their own personal fears, because they bring that into a company. And somebody who's able to take the time to be crystal clear about what their vision is and articulate it in a way that's clear for the team, and then to help the team members identify their own personal vision so everyone has aligned visions and is now rowing in the same direction. Just like the story of John F. Kennedy, who visited NASA, and supposedly he ran into a janitor, probably who wasn't in uniform, and he asked the janitor, "What do you do here?" And he said, "I helped put a man on the moon." This is when everyone is aligned visions, not just the CEO and the owner's vision or the board's vision, but every single person on the team has their own personal vision clarified and is aligned with the vision of the team. If you want to align your vision with any group of people, corporate or otherwise, it starts with you knowing what your personal vision is, because how can you align with another vision if you don't have one? Yeah, I mean, it's an ideal structure, and it takes, first of all, buy-in. And the reason why team building typically doesn't work, they go out bowling, or they go out having a picnic, or breaking bread, or whatever it is, doing some mental activities or some social event. The reason why they don't work is because they're just physical, mental, and social experiences that may or may not bring bonds. They may even develop bonds. They may break bonds, but they don't align visions. And the only way that you're going to make progress is aligning visions. So that's the ideal structure. But team building needs buy-in first. You need buy-in from the CEO that this is the process we're going to do. We're going to help you clarify your vision so the team knows how to align with it. And we're going to help you overcome your own personal fears because you might be transmitting that to the team. And then it takes buy-in at the team level to say, hey, we're going to help you as individuals uncover your personal vision so you can link it to the vision of the company and help you with your own personal issues that you have and fears that you have, because you're bringing that into the team and tainting the team as well. You're afraid of heights because one time you fell off a roof, period. Or you witnessed someone, either directly or indirectly. Most people that came to me with physical health problems did not come because of a slip or a fall or a car accident or some sports injury. They came because they had lifestyle issues, whether it's sleep or diet or exercise or the way they breathe or their posture. And that's what I was generally speaking on. But I also realized that the majority of lifestyle issues starts with issues in the mind, with emotional mismanagement. People don't know how to control their emotions, and that affects the way they breathe. That affects their posture. That affects their diet. That affects their exercise. I mean, they exercise to control their emotions or balance them, or as a stress coping mechanism, and it was impacting their sleep. So I started coaching individuals just about their life. One of my first coaching clients was Tiffany, and I scanned her spine, and her spine was a mess. The scan was a mess. And instead of treating her physically, I just talked to her, and I challenged her perspective, and she said, "I'm afraid of losing my son to my ex." And that's when I realized fear is usually a component of every problem we have. It sits at the center of every problem as a component. But it also stands tall at the center of every solution, if you know how to leverage it. I didn't know how to leverage it until many years later. But so it started one-on-one, and I noticed that when I spoke to people, it transformed their health. I could measure it with spinal scans, with measuring tension around the aorta using some technology called iHeart with blood pressure technology, and noticed that people's health has improved. And then I started speaking at banks on posture and other topics, and then they started inviting me in more often than not to speak about attitude and about service and about working together. And I just started making stuff up, really. And then they started kind of coming together as real clear programs for professionals, coaching them on their body, coaching them on their mind, and coaching them on their voice, which are three key areas in the professional world. And then in their people's personal lives, I started coaching more so on relationships and couples working together. And then from the couples working together, it went to partners working together in companies, and then small teams, and then bigger teams. And now I work with the organizations that have thousands of employees. Yeah, my final destination is like everybody. I'm going to be buried in the earth one day, or my ashes are going to be spread around the world, but I'm dying. And I think that is so important to start there. Cancer was my gift. Cancer was my cure. Yes, it was a curse. Yes, it was a disease. But it was a wake-up call that made me realize that my life is not immortal. I'm not an immortal being. My life is finite. And so I start with that, and I want to achieve something incredible before I die. My online presence I barely have any followers, but when I realized one day I'll never meet my great-great-great-grandma, I'll never know the wisdom that she had, but my great-great-great-grandkids can know mine. And so that's why my social media presence is only and primarily to create a library for my kids and their kids and their kids' kids' kids. So what my career is, or what my dream is, it's not even a career. I just wake up every day loving my life. I believe every human being wants to wake up inspired, wants to go to bed grateful, and in between chase a dream. And I want to give people the tools to chase that dream with courage. I want to give people the tools to create a brighter future. I want to give people the tools and the systems so that they can wake up inspired, but also have a crystal clear vision of what they want to achieve before they die, a legacy, a brand, an immortal, presence, if you will, on this planet, because we all want to leave a mark on our world. We all want the world to know, the universe know, we were here. Instead of wasting your time on resenting distractions and merely relaxing, think long, think deep, find your answers and commit. Commit to waking up and going to bed, and in between chasing it, chasing that dream, chasing that adventure, chasing those goals in that joint venture. This way you shift from stress, fear, and anxiety to building your empire, to creating your masterpiece, to paving your legacy. Do you want to be remembered? Do you want to stop feeling so rotten? Then get out there. Go live that life. Go be that brand that ain't easily forgotten. No, I don't have cancer. No, I don't have cancer. It was cancer was a short-term thing. It was, like I said, it was an alarm clock. It rang for a little while. I turned the alarm clock off, and I said, I got it. I'm clear. I know someone who died from the same kind of cancer I had. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it was because he didn't listen to the wake-up call, but I really believe that disease, dis-ease, your body functioning without ease, dis-ease, that turns into disease, full-blown chronic disease, is really a wake-up call of sorts. To trying to wake us up to that vision we have for our lives, that legacy, that immortality that we want to align with. That most people just ignore the symptoms, they ignore the signs, and they just keep on going. Instead of pulling over, like a Formula race car driver doesn't keep going round and round if there's something wrong with the car. You pull over and you fix it and you get clear on your vision, then you get back on the track. But most people just keep going. They get their wheels falling off here and there and the car ends up going sideways. So my message to people who are young and their bodies, are ticking over beautifully, my message to them is to find that thing you love more than anything in the world. My advice to parents with their kids is to find that thing that they love doing. Is it the little girl who picks up the camera and says, I want to be a Hollywood movie producer? Is it the kid that loves art or football or math? Notice when they come alive and align them with that. School sometimes robs them of that because they spend all day at school, then they come home and there's homework and all this stuff, and some people can almost, I don't think anyone forgets, but they can move away of their dream, and the more you move away from it, the more you get comfortable living a life without it, right? The more you feel like, maybe it's not that big of a dream, maybe it's not that important to me. So that's what I would say to the young is, find that thing you love and don't ever forget it, and try to find a way to turn it into a livelihood. And for parents, same thing with their kids. You might have a vision of them becoming doctors, lawyers, whatever, but engineers, let's say, but they may want to go a different way. Their dream is not yours, right? So you got to help just nourish their dream, no matter how painful it would be, because you have a vision of your mind of them going one way, probably because you have fear related to your past and your history. Those who are suffering right now with some sort of symptoms, and I think everyone's got some symptoms that come and go. I mean, if I ask anyone in this room right now, if there's something bothering you, there's going to be something. Tension, back pain, elbow pain from holding the phone. You feel like you just want to sit down, your low back feels tight or something. I get that, dehydrated. Your body is constantly just trying to send you signals. If you go to the buffet and, you think your mind is going to kick in first, say, hey, look, that's enough. I think we've had enough. You don't listen, your body's going to kick in with heartburn, bloatedness, you feel uncomfortable, bite your cheek, bite your tongue. All these signs are happening. And if you don't listen to your, these internal cues from your mind and your body, then you can expect the outside world to start affecting you, because you don't know who you are. You're just drifting aimlessly. And people are going to start telling you, you should do this and you should do that. You should be this and you should be that. I mean, I'm coaching several people right now that have some serious life, serious life-threatening issues, from MS to cancer. You know, some of these people are young, in their 20s and 30s. I'm thinking of 2 girls right now, 2 young ladies I'm working with right now. The girl that was diagnosed with cancer, the first thing I would do before you start going into how do I treat it, you know, find out what the stage that it's in and what my treatment options are. But don't only look from without. You better look from within. You better figure out what it's trying to tell you. You better decode it. Turn the disease into a code you can understand. It's saying, hey girl, you know, I had one lady I was coaching that developed breast cancer. And she said, I know for a fact that since I started feeling this lump, till it developed, because I ignored it, I know for a fact that that was the time when I realized I need to leave my job and write my book. And when she did leave her job and write her book, everything reversed. The disease process reversed, didn't worsen. I worked with a guy who had leukemia, and he came in to see me. He said, Oudi, I really want your thoughts on cancer. I said, are you sure? You really want to know what I think? He said, yeah. I said, sometimes we use our health problems to solve our life problems. He's like, are you saying I made myself sick? I said, well, you asked me my opinion. He said, that's ridiculous. He met me, locally Marathi guy. He met me a few days later in a coffee shop. He didn't want to meet at the clinic. He said, I just want to ask you something. He said, you remember when you said that health problems are sometimes solutions for life problems? I said, yeah, that's my famous line. He's like, you're right. I said, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know how I forgot to tell you this last time we met, but 10 years ago, I went on my hands and knees and I prayed. I said, God, please give me something big like cancer. I said, why would you do something like that? He's like, because I have no way out in my business. I have people involved in my business. I have no way out. And so I said, so your cancer is your way out? He's like, yeah. He couldn't exit any other way. And I said, well, what do you want? How can I help you? He said, well, now that I understand that, what do I do? I said, well, step 1, you realized that you had an unconscious will to be ill. That's what led to this, potentially. But now you need to activate your conscious will to be well. And so you need to understand what's going on psychologically that could be contributing to this. Again, it's a component. And then number 2, you got to figure out what are the different ways that I have to restore my health. Is it traditional ways? Is it alternative ways? Is it a mix? And then proceed with making it a priority. Many of the people came in with this will of, I'm going to fight this, I'm going to beat this. But if you don't understand what any disease is really trying to teach you about your life, you're at the mercy of traditional approaches, right? And if you look at what chemotherapy will do to many people, it will strip you down to basically skin, bones, and a little bit of fat and muscle. That's all you're left with. And so in the end, at the end stages, especially when they don't have a vision for their life, they're all gonna end up looking like they're the same, like they're, as you said, you know, clones or copies of each other. My final words are, I don't care what your challenge is, I don't care what you're going through. It doesn't matter. Every challenge you're given is the challenge that you want to embrace, because you're never going to have an incredible life without overcoming challenges. The question is, do you want to choose the challenges you face because you want to produce movies and it's challenging and it keeps you up all night? Do you want to produce the challenge of writing books? Do you want to produce a challenge of, you know, opening a law firm? Or do you want to just succumb to the wills and wishes of other people and live their life and then have to deal with their challenges?